Luke Weaver from the Yankees is here with us on Sports Spectrum. I want to go back to a year ago, do a little reflecting with you here because 2023, when I went back and looked at kind of everything that happened with you as a baseball player, is a weird one, right? Like you're signed by
Yeah.
Cincinnati, released, claimed by Seattle, there for less than a month, and then claimed by the Yankees, where you are now last September. Three teams, lots of uncertainty. Can you describe what last year was like for you to go through, especially in the midst of comparing it to this year, where you've been a pretty stable force and have been with one team, which is nice in this game when you can do that.
Yeah, Jason, I tell you what, man, that is the year to remember, right? So it's I the fight has always been to for the last few years just to stay healthy, to feel confident in my health that is then going to reflect on the field. And that's my biggest prayer for in my relationship with God is like just show me what it looks like. I don't I would like it for it to be awesome, but if it's not, like, just maybe some closure, maybe just some peace and knowing like, hey, this is my time. This is the, maybe I need to move on to the next chapter, and like that's okay. I can live with that. I think it's hard to live in this space where people think that you could be this and you continue kind of fall short of that, but it's really deep down you could do that and you keep falling short. So it became hard. But yeah, that year was crazy because you know, I started off, in Reds camp and trying to win a starting job, and I won it. And then it came, I had a little flexor strain in my elbow. It set me back a week or two, which wasn't a big deal, but it was like, all right, and we're falling into this trap again. And obviously, those are some things that are out of my control because it's not like I'm not working.
Of course.
But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it was just a struggle that year. It was an awkwardness of like I'm so close to feeling healthy and then implementing things physically on the mound that I'm so close to achieving and so close to putting together through a full start. And there was always one pitch, there was always one moment that would just negatively affect me on the field, mentally, physically, and just really the ball game. And it just became a cycle, and it became like, well, now I see the numbers on the board. Now, like, there's just a lot of things that are just compounding on me. But I think my biggest goal was I will not walk into the field every day with that mindset. Like, nobody is going to tell me that I've changed in a bad way. Like, I'm going to be a teammate. I'm going to be a great teammate. I'm going to be an impactful person of God. I'm going to fight for it, even though it hurts and it's hard. But that's my goal. That's my prayer to God. Like, hey, just give me the strength today to come off a bad outing and to be the same guy. And I think in that he showed me a lot of amazing moments with these guys because I felt like I was a really a big part of that team, even though I felt like I wasn't doing much physically on the field that I would have liked. We had like some crazy streaks where like I think I had like 8 outings in a row where I wouldn't get a decision, but we would win. And it was like tracking. I think it was like one away or something from a major league record of like, because usually you get the win or loss, right? And sometimes you get no
Yeah.
decisions. But like there was something about like even though sometimes it didn't go as well, like say I'd give up 4 runs in the first, like I would throw four scoreless the next because I'd just fight for it, and then they'd end up coming back and winning. And
Yeah.
I felt like there was this cool moments in that, and no one ever looked down on me by my performance. So we fast forward really quick, and we get to a point where like they end up letting me go, and I understood why. And we had some young guys coming back, and it was just about that time. So um, right before that happened, probably a week or so, I'm in the midst of my struggle, and I'm praying hard, and I'm in Second Corinthians 12:10. Talking about with Paul and his thorn in his side, and he's trying not to, um, he's battling against trying to make it about himself, and he's just like, all right, you put this thorn here for a reason because you're allowing me to know your power, like, and my weakness, there is so much power in that. And I just like it, just we had it in the chapel, and it just hit me so hard, hit me like a ton of bricks. And I just reread it probably 50 times, and I just focused on it, and I was like, okay, this is where I'm at right now, because there's nobody stronger than me in that on that team than the weaknesses I'm going through, but the strength that I'm gaining from it, because I'm fighting for it.
Yeah.
And I remember getting into an outing. finally I start off the game hot. Like it's like 5 strikeouts through 7 hitters. Like I'm like, all right, I have a lot of confidence and I'm fighting for it. And then I give up a couple like cheap hits, and then I give up like a just cheap home run. I mean, I'm gonna call it cheap, but it wouldn't go out in Cincinnati's ballpark. It's a tough ballpark, but
Yeah.
3-run homer to a friend of mine who actually hit it that I played with, and it just took the wind out of my sails, man. I mean, and I remember sitting there praying like, "There's power in the weakness. There's power in the weakness. There's power in the weakness," and I just try to reset. And then I throw 3 pitches in the next batter, line drive straight off the elbow.
Oh,
And I kid you not, man, I couldn't feel my arm, my shoulders, from my fingertips. It just shut off. I could barely breathe from the pain. And I just remember walking straight into the training room, and I just sit there at the ceiling. And it was like the only moment in my entire life where I like contemplated like, I don't want to play anymore. Like
hmm,
this is I can't handle this burden anymore. And I haven't really shared this much, to be honest, except with family, but it's like I think it's important to know like we all have our breaking points. And I know I'm playing a game, right? But I think it relates to any job or anything we're doing.
totally.
And it was the first time I admitted it to myself, and I just wanted to break down. And um I remember going home, and my wife and kids are usually asleep because it's late, right? And I remember sitting on the couch just staring at the ceiling, just like, man, I mean, what does my life look like if I'm not doing this? And I was just really kind of in my feels, and I was like, probably 30 minutes go by, and I was just like, nah, like
Hmm,
this isn't how it's gonna work. And I just got flooded. I was just like, no, I'm not like this. I'm not a quitter. This is not something I'll ever do. And when I'm done, I'm done. But I know I'm emotional. I got it out. Like we're good. And
yeah.
then I called up a guy I work with outside the field that just helps me stay healthy. It's like 1 in the morning. I'm like, I need you for an hour. Like, help me get this inflammation out of my elbow. Like, I need to get back to work. And so I wake up the next day. I tell my wife, some of my things. She was pretty thrown off. Like, hey, I've never heard you talk like this. And I'm just like, I'm good now. But like, that's where I was at. And then fast forward, I get released probably shortly after, and I'm just like, all right, so what? It was a shock, right? It was a pride moment. I was shocked, but I was like, so what? And then the Mariners picked me up, staying there a time, a month, you said, I guess, and
Yeah.
it was okay. I mean, there's good moments, okay moments, not so great moments, like just kind of put together. And then they let me go in Tampa, and I had my family there, and so I drove back with them to Tallahassee and sat there. And obviously, there's a waivers claim system, and then the Yankees hit me, and I was like, man, I was like kind of like looking to the off season. There's probably about 3, 4 weeks left, and I was like, you know what, reset. Let me just get back. Let me work on things. Let me get my mind right. And then the Yankees called, and I was like, no way. I was like, the Yankees. Like in my mind right now, after everything I just said, like the Yankees seemed like the last team on my mind that I needed to get involved with, just
Sure.
from the stakes and just the New York lifestyle. And I remember just convincing myself like, this is where we're at. Like this is where God's put you. And then so I get there. I actually pitch really well. I learn a lot, and I just remember sitting there at the end of the season, being like, "Man, why do you make this so hard? Like, God, like, what are you doing? Like, I'm getting crushed over here." But it was like, "Hey, man, you fought for it, and now you're here." And this is what this is gonna look like. And then we get into it. I signed back with the Yankees, and then I'm doing what I'm doing today. And I think it's just so. I remember I broke down a couple times just through the season, sitting in my hotel bed, just thinking about the success that he's brought me and the health that he's brought me, and
Hmm,
just being like, gosh, this is why we fight. This is why we do the things we do. This is why we trust in his plan, and why we trust in that, he is gracious and gonna and give us what he feels that we need, or where we're gonna get to. And I just remember feeling like just not worthy of it, but feeling also like it's because I stayed strong. And that story means a lot to me because you just never know where you're going to be led to. And so I
yeah.
took a lot of time there, but it's a huge part of my journey for sure.